My mom is saying she won't come to my wedding after my favorite son brother asked my fiancé to marry him, so I told her she can throw away her invite because I won't ask her to show up. Mark was my mom's special boy, and she didn't try to keep it secret. When my sisters and I got presents, we had to split them, but my mom always said that Mark's stuff was just for him and we couldn't use it. When Mark messed up, I'd get in trouble for not showing him the right way. For example, when Mark went through a phase of breaking his toys, I got the beating because obviously he learned that behavior from me. It was around this time that I started distancing myself from my brother. I got my first job when I turned 17 because I wanted to finally get my car and make money they couldn't force me to give to Mark. I got my first car at 18 after all my hard work. When Mark wanted my parents to buy him a car, my mom told me to give him mine because he needed it more. When I refused, she threatened to kick me out. At the start of the new school year, I moved away from college and cut contact with them. Later, when I moved back, my sister told me they had been seeing a family therapist and that my parents wanted to apologize for their treatment of us. I was hesitant but agreed, as long as they were genuine, and the reconciliation process began when I moved back home. Then I met Jen. We met at a bar in October soon after I returned, and we hit it off immediately. She was by far the most beautiful and intelligent woman I'd ever met, and after a few dates, we made it official. I wasn't sure where our relationship or my reconciled family ties were headed, so I kept details of my family to myself, ready to cut contact again if needed. At a family dinner, my parents asked to see pictures of my girlfriend and passed my phone around. When Mark saw them, he exploded, calling me a shit brother for dating his ex, and demanded I break it off with her. I refused. Later, Jen confirmed they had dated briefly, only for about a month, before he lost interest, claiming he was bored of relationships and never wanted to settle down. On Jen's birthday, I took her to a fancy dinner with both families and her closest friends to ask her to marry me. Mark again flipped out about my proposal, though my sisters and I quickly shut down his outburst. For 2 months, Mark had been mostly quiet, so I didn't think much of it until he unexpectedly invited Jen and me to a family dinner at his apartment, attended by my parents and sisters. Though I found the invitation odd, I agreed to go. During that dinner, after a modest meal, we moved to the living room. About 30 minutes in, Mark stood up and announced he had something important to say. He gave a lengthy speech about his happiness. Then, to everyone's shock, got on one knee, pulled out a cheap ring, and proposed to Jen. Confused and uncomfortable, Jen demanded he stop immediately. My dad tried to intervene, but I punched him before he could do more. Mark muttered that he was proving Jen wasn't really into me and was just getting back at him. That was the final straw. Jen and I went home and decided to uninvite him from the wedding. A few days later, my mom stopped by to discuss my wedding. She asked why I was so adamant about not inviting Mark. She insisted I wasn't overreacting about his past relationship with Jen and accused me of ostracizing her son. She warned that if I didn't re-invite him, she wouldn't come either. I shrugged and told her that if that's what she wanted, she could toss her invite in the trash. I wasn't going to beg her to attend. When she asked if I'd be okay with her not coming, I replied that it wouldn't be the first time she'd missed an event because of Mark. Enraged, she called me an AH for throwing her past mistakes in my face and stormed out. About 2 weeks later, my mom returned to clear the air. She couldn't understand why I wouldn't overlook what I considered a simple mistake. Mark proposing to my fiancé with me sitting less than 3 feet away. She claimed it was just a joke. The argument quickly escalated into a screaming match. As Jen headed for the door, my mom chased after her, still yelling that I was tearing our family apart. While Jen unlocked the door, my mom grabbed her hair, pulled her down, and continued screaming. She hit Jen and tried clawing her face. I dragged her off and threw her outside, and she pounded on the door for several minutes while I ensured Jen was safe. Once I was sure Jen was okay, I texted my mom, telling her not to reach out again because we'd never speak to her. Even though Jen wasn't interested in further reconciliation, our decision was final. After that, I was shocked when my mom tried to corner me leaving my job and screamed at me about trying to ruin her life. She kept screaming that I was an awful son for trying to get her arrested over a small misunderstanding, and she didn't understand what she'd done to deserve being punished like this. I told her that she shouldn't have hit Jen if she didn't like being in legal trouble. She demanded that I tell the police to forget the report, which I refused. I told her what the officer said about it being out of my hands. I also told her that I would never forgive her for what she did to Jen and what she did to me and my sisters growing up. She started to say how I should move on like my sisters, but I cut her off and told her that she should take their forgiveness and move on because she would never receive it from me.